copywritten production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Alrighty. We're ready for computers. You have a...
No, I just wanted to make sure that everyone puts their phone on quiet, because it's extremely annoying to try to give a presentation. And make sure that you sign, the committee signs their sheet, the guests need to sign a sheet. Thank you.
Great. Well, if this ever comes up, we'll have a video, but you do have a presentation, and if you feel that it's warm, it was printed about 2.5 minutes ago. We kind of got tied up at the Footprint Center looking at seats. What we decided we were going to do is we're going to spend 2 meetings just on the pack, okay? Because that seems to be a very important topic for this process to move forward. My colleague, Jeff, was planning on being here and giving a presentation. He has a sinus condition, so he can't be here. I will give you a synopsis of what I think he was going to say. And that is that he's gone through the survey results and found that most of the members are satisfied with their amenities as they exist today. I will make one big caveat. The Players Club is operating on unsatisfactory conditions. So with that, and I want to dig into the presentation, the heck with the computer. Let's go to paper. One of the things I've been exploring with different members that have brought this up is the use of retractable theater seating. And when it'll take its time. By the time the presentation's over, it'll be up there. And so we started to investigate retractable theater seating as an option for a performing arts center, which makes it dual purpose. Now, what I started out with is bleachers. You're going to put bleachers in to sit people on. And when I started researching it, my good friend Gary Osier started showing me what was possible, including the London Theater, the Dubai Theater, and others. These seats can be as luxurious as you want. And my colleague Karen and I just met with a dealer representative from Hussey Manufacturing, who does all of the retractable seating, including for the Footprint Center, which is where the Phoenix Suns play. Is it the Suns?
And Mercury.
Okay.
And others.
And Mercury. I'm originally from Denver, and Phoenix won the Nuggets won the NBA, so I guess there's a basketball team or something that plays in it. So let's start out with and I don't plan on talking. What I want to do today is really have a roundtable discussion after a very short, hopefully what will be a very short presentation on where people are with respect to the PAC. Again, remember our charter, develop and present strategic alternatives to our members, by our members, for the currently suspended 5th budgeted project at Mountain View, and this includes finding suitable space for the players. So, I want to start out with the first question. Start with Norm. Do you believe that Mountain View is in an acceptable condition? You. 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 I always like to start out with unanimous. How many of you have been to a movie or a play at Mountain View? Sure. Okay. Lots of folks. Okay. How many of you believe that the current Mountain View auditorium is suitable for the players?
No.
That was unanimous.
Unanimous.
I like it. We started unanimous, we got back to unanimous. How many of the members here, the committee members, believe that finding a suitable venue for the players is a high priority item?
Yes. Yes.
Pretty much unanimous?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last one, I'm just going to leave for you to ponder on. How much would you be willing to spend for that venue? I'm not going to ask you to name a number, but each and every one of you will have, I hope, some idea. It's kind of like when I go car shopping. I see exactly the car that I want. And then I look at my checkbook and I say, what do you have to buy? Okay, so turning to the Players Club, one of the things I think that we all recognize is that this club is an icon in the community. It's been around since the beginning of Sun City, which is 60, are we going on 83 years? No, 63 years? 63 years.
Here,
We're
the
going
players have
on.
been around for 62.
Okay, so a continuous club activity. So it is kind of in the threads of the fabric of Sun City. And during that time, they put on more than 200 performances. And you think about that 200 performances, one of the things you have to realize is that for each performance, there is probably about 7 times the amount of work in terms of hours that goes on in the performance. So this is not a low impact sport. You have a lot of work. Also, as part of the history, everyone should understand that since at least 1975, and I've talked to Ben Roloff, and he says it goes before then, the Sun City players have been asking for a suitable venue. The venue that they're in today was at one time, I'm told, a laundromat. Then went upscale into a roller rink, and then was retrofitted, I believe, to allow for theater performances. So I just want to keep that background in mind as we proceed. I was also asked, what's the competitive, outside of Sun City, what's the competitive landscape for live theater performances? And what I've found was, of course, what you'd expect. That because of COVID, because of home entertainment, because of a number of factors, the audiences are suppressed. The New York Times said about half of pre-COVID levels. And so that's not really surprising, is it? I mean, people are afraid to, they still have that fear, the mentality of being a foot away from somebody's coffee. So then I looked at what is the prevalence of standalone theaters in retirement communities like ours. Of the 144, 55 plus active communities, 3 have standalone theaters. Sun City West, Pebblebrook, and West Valley all have standalone theaters. So this kind of got me dropped off on talking to people about a needs assessment. And one of the things that this...
Yes, you did hear it on here.
All right.
Very good.
Hey,
Success.
do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, how do we do it?
So, and I'm going to be, perfectly open and honest on it, that the view of this alternative is that the Sun City players have two distinct needs. One I'll call pre-production and one I'll call production. Pre-production is everything from, starting with script review, business meetings, actor training, auditions, rehearsals, set design, set construction. It's a pretty darn long list. And for those activities, this alternative looks at those as a standalone activity that needs dedicated space. You just can't move your costumes to your set multiple times, every other day, or take your set down at the end of the day. So I was kind of looking at this as, okay, so there's two distinct needs. The second need is for performance. You can't perform in a warehouse, even though that's probably what you're doing. So you need a performing theater with theater seats, audiovisual equipment, and the whole 9 yards. So with that in mind, we started looking at retractable seating to convert Sundial into a multi-purpose theater when needed. What we all know is that Sundial is heavily used for things like bingo, line dancing, and other stuff. So these retractable seats, and we will see a picture here on the next page, full telescope scope back to 5 feet. So you're taking 5 feet out of your flat space to accommodate, if there are 448 seats. So it's pretty amazing technology. Whether it's right for us, I don't know. But I just want to present it as an option. And it's not new technology. It's adopted in universities, theaters, world-class theaters, sports venues. It's proven technology, and you can, I would say, you can name your price. You could go into that car dealership, and like they did in Dubai, and say, I want Italian leather, high back seats with 2 cup holders, and this, that, and the other thing, if you want to pull out your pocketbook. Or you can go much less expensive, all on the other end, and you can go with polymer seats with just a little flimsy little cushion in between, are all sorts of variations. If you turn the page, you will see a picture, which I think is worth 1,000 words, of what these seats look like. Now, they come in 19, 20, 21, and 22, and 24-inch diameter. They can be mixed and matched. They can be designed. It's all an engineering design thing based on what you want or need. For the Sundial Auditorium, we did have the representative come out and look. And for the upholstered seats, which are, I think, 2 steps up from the, is what we looked at today, I believe. For the upholstered seats, it was $312,000 for 448 seats installed.
We're talking about Sundial, but you realize that Thursday, Friday, Saturday is dancing there. And a lot of times you've got, when you have theater, they're going to be covering weekends. So that's not going to work at Sundial.
They have those indoor concerts too.
Pardon?
They have those indoor concerts as well there.
Yep.
Not only that, I have not seen at Sundial appropriate dressing rooms currently at Mountain View. There are room for 6 people on either side in the dressing room. The rest of us are out in the open, changing costumes, etc. It is not the best environment along that line.
Right.
They have 3 dressing rooms there at Sundial.
I have yet to see.
Yeah, they're in the back. If you're facing the stage, there's 2 on the right and 1 on
It's
the
very
left.
small.
And then there's also a storeroom that the dancers, so when we put on our shows, we use the 3 dressing rooms and the storeroom as a dressing room. But they are there. They are small.
They're small.
Yeah.
And
So,
you're crammed into it with 6 people.
so again, just to present the option, not to say, we're not here to say this will work or this won't work. We're here to say there's a hurdle. The hurdle is the usage, scheduling, and so on and so forth. Get it? Oh, we get it, yes.
John, you said these will retractable profiles 5 feet from the wall. How many rows is that?
13, Karen, did you say? I think he said 13
13 rows?
rows,
Okay.
448 seats, 672 seats gross. So that's, the other thing I'll tell you with these things is they're not a slope form. They have a 3.5 inch step in between. So they're not a slope. They are a step. But I want to again, have it out there for your consideration.
Okay, the first 13 rows are sloped and then the second 13 are sloped more?
So it's a tier.
Yeah,
So
but you have your first 13 rows.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know, maybe that comes to be, what, 6 feet? The floor?
Oh,
Then how does the next
The
set?
rake is the same, so the head overhead space is the same for the entire
Okay.
set there. And it's all put together, it's not divided into 2 sections, like the first 6 rows and then the last 8 rows.
Okay,
It's all in one.
okay.
But there's 2 steps to get from one set of seats to the next set of seats. So each step is 4.75 inches.
Okay.
give or take.
How long would this take to set up?
2.5 minutes. So, I guess with that, again, let's look at our sheets, the pros and the cons, which is there. Take a few minutes and just on a test basis, let's fill these out and then go around the room and talk about pros and cons. Because this is what we're going to be doing kind of from here on in. I know I would have put it bigger, but
I really like this, it's like reading the back of a wine bottle.
okay, so you don't care.
No, I mean,
Okay. There should be, the pros and cons should be in there. I think you just, give you a couple of minutes to.
This is it.
That's the one, yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If you were to implement this for like $315,000 to do that, would that hypothetically impact what you would need in a performing arts theater if it were more narrowed in its specific design? So assuming like you have a lot of people
Okay.
performing arts theater, like the dancers and the piano people and the bells and all the other things that are considered performing arts, that this would hypothetically be useful for, that you could set up and down quickly for the time constraints that are available at Sundial
Or,
then maybe your performing arts theater would not need to be as extravagant as what is projected in this number 2.
it can also be used in another building. So one of the things that got us started on this was that when the option 2 was developed, the concern was we're taking away flat space. And so they added a gym to just do nothing more than replace the flat space. So if that building were somehow fitted with this, you would have both the flat space and the seating. And again, it's not a matter of hours, it's a matter of minutes.
And these seats are straight out from the stage, not on the ends of sundial?
These are coming from the back wall forward.
Okay.
Again, that's just a preliminary design. Yeah.
You can,
Something like
you
this.
can order them customized in any
Yeah.
configuration that you want. So for instance, at the Footprint Center, they have a certain number of fixed seats in certain places, but then sort of in the corners. So it was set up for a Phoenix Mercury game, which is probably the smallest floor space that they need. They had all of the seats were fully extended. But if you have a concert or something and you want to take away this block of seats or that block of seats, you can do that. So there are options for putting in.
I was just wondering, the
At any
number of
angle.
seats that were listed here,
Yeah.
were they just straight, not side seats?
No, these did not go into either of the other halls.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
How far out from the back wall do these 13 rows extend?
How far out? The initial design, again, we've only had one person look at this design. The initial design was that you would put these 6 feet, you'd have a 6 feet hallway behind these seats.
Yeah.
So it'd be a total of 12 feet that would be,
I'm wondering how close does it get to the stage?
that it can get as close as needed. It can be designed as close as needed. That's a function of the building use and the trade-offs that go with the building use. So to answer your question, you can have the first seat 2 feet from the stage. You could have the first seat 15 feet from the stage. That's just the design of where you put the start of the seats and where they extend to.
I see. Now, next question is, if this was something for the players, given that we have a separate shop for set design at this point,
Yes.
where would we set up the set? And would we be transporting it from the Mountain View area clear to Sundial, or what?
Well, I mean, I have an idea I'll throw out, but there's probably a number of ideas, and that is that RCSC would. So if you were to set up a set, and for the part of the performance where you needed that set on stage, RCSC would move it.
I see. I know as things are currently done at Mountain View, there are parts of the set that are actually constructed on the stage, so that it's not something that is totally constructed in the shop and then moved, full built, but is essentially constructed on the stage.
Yes.
And that can take 3 or 4 weeks, given the time and the people involved are.
Yeah, and again, there's a big scheduling hurdle in this in terms of how much time is any performing arts center. That's not unique to this. How much time is any performing arts center tied up with pre-production activity?
Yes. Well, part of the reason I'm asking the question is that in the design of the theater, as in two, there was a lift area for putting essentially a spot for painted backdrops, which could be switched fairly easily once they're painted. But this, as I see it, does not have that capability at Sundial.
If I was just free thinking, as kind of a wannabe engineer, I would say you would make those like roll-up curtains. So that they would roll up and roll down, you'd have 3 or 4 roll-up curtains. But I think what you're saying is you want to leave them completely extended and take them out of the view of the audience and drop another one down.
That's the typical construction
Yes,
approach
it is.
for it. Given the roll-up approach, you're likely to have flaking paint.
Well, projected. What if you project that?
Projection, we've used back projection as well as forward projection. Forward projection runs into problems because you've got the actors in front of the screen. Back projection has worked to a certain extent. And I don't know what the capability is within Sundial for that kind of an approach.
Again, that would be something that would have to be explored. As I understand it,
We use back production in our shows.
yeah,
We've used back projection in our shows. I think, Ted, my concern that I wanted to ask you is, when you're talking about building the sets and having them on stage, are you talking about securing them to the floor? Because I'm thinking about then the dancers. And again, we are a senior community, and we already had 2 people fall last year on stage. And I'm just like wondering, when you talked about the sets being on stage, what are you envisioning?
Well, currently we have platforms that give different heights, and those are not secured to the floor, but they've got sufficient weight that they don't move.
I just wanted to make sure there was nothing, because right now the floor that we have at Sundial is not the best for the dancers. And we're looking for like a nice a portable dance floor that we can have put in. But my concern was if you were securing it, because I had talked to somebody and that's what they had mentioned, they wanted them secured to the floor, and I just envisioned little holes that our tap shoes are gonna get caught in, we're gonna go flying and, I was just curious as to what you were envisioning.
Well, it would be nice to have trap doors and so forth. That's not something that we as older performers are particularly interested in.
we understand.
Karen, have you seen these seats?
Yes.
How is leg room? Good. Between rows? Good. So your knees aren't in the chair in front, okay. Of course,
No,
you have short legs.
I did sit today behind John, and with the rake that's there, so the head overhead space there, he's much larger, taller than I am, and he was sitting.
Nice catch.
Roy is alive!
That's gonna cost you $5.
So if the seat differential is about maybe a foot, my seat is maybe a foot higher than his seat is, but if he's 8 inches taller than I am, I said if I was trying to watch the basketball game, I would have to do a little bit of this and this.
So like if you
Now-
were behind Jim there.
Now, they
he's
do,
quite
they
tall.
will work with individual customized seating to make sure that everybody's line of sight is good.
So they're
you can-
stacked one behind the other, not on a,
No, they can
Staggered.
be, that you can have them staggered however you want. And
Okay.
one way you can stagger too is to say, I want 2 19-inch seats and a 24-inch seat and then a 20-inch seat, so that you have some variation that can help with the line of sight as well.
And what about handicap seating? Is there, I mean, I'm just thinking of the steps. Are they just gonna put them there with a wheelchair and have them just sit right up in front? Is that what is envisioned? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we didn't talk about ADA seating.
Mhm.
They can, well, no, I'm gonna take that back. If you have a entrance from the top, you know, you can put it on top or bottom or side. Yeah, I think that's what the answer I got.
Mhm.
But there's no entrance from the top here, the only entrance.
Yeah,
is
there's
the
no
bottom,
entrance.
So there would be no way to get a wheelchair up into any of these
Yeah,
seats.
yeah, that's going on.
Where do you expect all the dancers to go if they do this at Sundial? Where do you expect all these dancers to go if they do a theater at Sundial? Where are we gonna go? You're not even thinking about that.
Why not? I said, one of the hurdles is scheduling, and so you have to really dive down to see if this is viable. You can't get angry because you have to investigate this in little steps and say, well, maybe the scheduling doesn't work.
It's already a problem there. This is gonna be a bigger problem when you start adding theater seating to Sundial. You're gonna make a lot of enemies of this girl. Let me tell you.
Well, I don't appreciate the threat, but.
Well, I'm just saying,
I will
that's-
tell you that
Information,
we
not
are, we're going to investigate all hurdles. I will tell you that we've already investigated other alternatives.
I just
In
want
fact,
you to think about that.
yeah, yes, absolutely.
Because
There's no, you know, this is just going to be plopped on because we investigated it. It's going to be, here's the hurdles. Hey, this is insurmountable. Take her off the table and move on. Now, yes.
Is there, number one, I think this is a phenomenal idea. I think that the fact that you found this information and was able to just quickly get this information out, I think it will make the Sundial much more usable for a number of other groups, and much more pleasurable to use for movies or dance things or something. I don't know that it's going to replace the need for the center, for the
Yeah, I know.
Performing Arts Center. But the fact that this is available for the Sundial is going to make the Sundial so much better if it were something you could do in addition to maybe a performing arts thing, maybe just not as big. But that's an outstanding idea.
Yeah, no. And again, we're just throwing out ideas. And
Just an example of when you have a large group that, this is how we use Sundial Auditorium.
okay.
It gives you the idea where you need the space because of different styles of dancing. Oh, no.
Could, in addition to the building, be part of this, the northeast corner of that Sundial is just gravel area. You come out the one exit to the east side of the stage, and there's gravel area there. It's not being utilized for anything but landscaping and gravel. And for the space they need to build sets, to have proper dressing rooms and that sort of thing.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a possibility. Yeah, again, and this is, again, you may also say, you also say, you know, yeah, this is okay for Sundial, or yeah, this is okay for a multi-purpose theater. So if you built a flat floor space with a decent stage, dressing rooms, so on and so forth, this would also allow platform use. That's all I'm saying.
I think we should all be aware we're not going to get everything that we want. And it's kind of like, what is the best use of the money that addresses most of what it is that we're looking for. Now, the retractable seating, I think that's awesome. I mean, I think that's an awesome idea. I'm concerned about trying the logistics of the scheduling, which I brought up last week.
Yeah.
Because the amount of rehearsals you have, the amount of rehearsals we require around with the dancing, with the other clubs, it is going to make that club's office go insane. I envision it now.
You mean
because
further?
I'm in there every week because my teachers are constantly changing things, and I just see a problem with that.
Yeah,
But I do think this is a viable option that, right now.
Yeah.
The only problem I see with it is the ADA requirement. We usually have 6, 8 people in wheelchairs come in for each performance.
right.
And if we don't have ADA compliant seating, we open ourselves up to being sued by anyone who desires it. As I understand it, the current law on ADA is that anybody can sue and get a settlement from you if you're not ADA compliant.
I'm not sure.
And there are a fair number of small businesses that have had to pony up in that kind of situation. And I'd hate to see us in that kind of predicament ourselves.
I would say that's another one.
I'm with you in the sense of it's a great idea for sundown, but it does not replace the need for an actual theater, which you will be able to use and have it the way it should be with all the things that need to be the way it is. For sundown, I mean, we all go to sundown, we go to all these places, and maybe it's a consideration the retractable seating. It's not going to replace what we are talking about.
John, I don't know how that room at Sundown works. Is there a wall that you can partition off the ends? There is. Have you considered acoustics there?
You know,
It's not the best.
well, I've been to concerts there.
I know, so
and
have I.
it's very good. I guess the other thing, when we talk about acoustics, and I don't need to be argumentative. Come on.
Because you were going there.
I know, that's a preface. I'm hard of hearing. What? Most of us are. So it's, and this is recreational. If it were, say you're gonna put on Hamilton or Frozen or Nutcracker, I would say, yeah, those are all very, very important to have those dialed in perfectly. In my, again, not the in my mind, if I can hear it, it's good acoustics.
See, and that's the problem. For you to hear it, it's probably good because you're getting the sound bouncing.
Mhm.
For other people that don't have an hearing issue,
Mhm.
sometimes that gets to be annoying because the sound is bouncing.
Sure. Yeah, so there's a balancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
I
balancing.
mean, there's concerts
And
we
how do you-
haven't gone to simply because of the sound bounce.
Mhm. Yeah.
It gets very annoying.
So the ADA compliancy for stadium seating says they need to be dispersed throughout the area.
Mhm.
They need to be available at all levels and price points, and we're just basically charging one price anyway.
Mhm.
It has to have a companion seat next to them
Nope.
and a comparable line of sight. It does also mention that the aisle seats, 1% of them should have an armrest that can move or be removed.
Okay.
For people with low mobility, not in a wheelchair. And the first offense is $75,000, and each subsequent one is $150,000 for being non-compliant.
How are we compliant today?
Pardon me?
How are we compliant today?
Oh, I have no idea.
So think about Harkins Theater. If you own the big Harkins Theater, it sits like 250 people.
Yeah.
All of their, like wheelchair handicap is at the bottom before you even go up. There is no handicap accessibility once you start going up the steps.
Yeah.
All of the handicap accessibility is at the bottom before you start going to that bottom row. So if you just think generically, Harkin Theater or AMC Theater, they are all handicap compliant without having a need for wheelchairs to go up a ramp to the top floor.
Yeah. I think that'd be a safety issue.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want someone pushing a wheelchair like that.
John, one big thing we didn't think about is bingo.
Yeah, this leaves,
That's a real nightmare.
yeah, if you collapse it to 5 feet. Bingo tables would not come out to meet this. What you would have though, I have to be honest with you, is where they sell the snacks in the back? They'd have to be relocated.
Well, not only that, but the players pretty much need the area several weeks, the stage area.
Right.
And now you're trying to get bingo in there once a week at least.
I know, the scheduling is,
It's gonna be horrific.
it's horrific. And so,
And that you really can't, they make a lot of money from charity.
$7,000
Yeah.
each night. Yeah. So, again, it's an option to consider in any building. These can be carpeted. If the concern was that you're going to build something at Mountain View that was an improved theater, but not on the level of option 2, you could have a combination flat floor space and improved theater all in one building. That's really the genesis of the whole idea, was that we got down the path on this flat floor space because we were taking it away. This makes it multi-purpose. Whether it's workable or not, we have to go through and brainstorm it. And then the one idea that I've had, I brainstormed till check with the lawyer, and then determined, no, there's a deed restriction. Maybe perfect, but you're not going to get by a deed restriction. So, sorry.
I think the players, they deserve a new performing arts center that fits what they need and not trying to.
Shoehorn.
But not just the players, any performing art.
The dancers,
I think we gotta be careful about saying to the community, we're building this for the players, because,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't wanna build a $15 million building for 120 people. We gotta be careful about saying that.
Right, it should be.
Who serve a couple of thousand or more a year, but there are not few of us at the moment.
Yeah.
We have been larger.
Yeah. And you have no idea which way you're going to go. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I just don't think we should advertise quite that way.
I agree with you. It should not just be
No.
for the Sun City players, because it's a negative connotation that's coming out in the community.
Right.
It's
And
not-
no offense, Ted, but
performing
it's
arts
just,
center.
yes,
And
it
needs to be a
should be
performing arts
stressed
center.
as just performing arts
Right.
center. Because right now, there's so many people that are like, I am sick of the Sun City players, yada, 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 and it's not just for you.
And for instance, every 4th of July time, we have the band there for a patriotic concert. I'd love to see choral groups there, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's what we need to start talking it up as a performing arts center,
Definitely.
of which Sun City Players is just a part of.
Just get rid of that word theater.
Yeah.
If our-
Performing arts center, yeah.
Yes, I haven't been personally involved, but there has been a meeting of various performing arts clubs within the Sun City environs that could and would be interested in using that kind of facility. I believe there were 11 or 12, something of that sort, clubs that qualified in that kind of a situation. I hadn't expected to be here in this spot yet. I thought I had a week or two before Bill was gone, but
Surprise!
And there may even be another group that we haven't dreamt about yet that hasn't formed, that will form, because there is a performing arts center.
Exactly, exactly. And I know we've had the Coral Ears just join us. They were hit hard by COVID, and were unable to maintain the 25 necessary, so they've joined us. And I'm sure they would be more than happy to use a facility with good acoustics.
Yes.
time for our next next information I want to hand out.
Oh, yes, please,
Okay,
please.
so,
We'll make some more copies if you'd like.
yes, if you don't have enough copies, he's making some over there.
So this is another alternative.
More coming. I worked on this after our budget meeting.
Wow, you're as quick as I am.
While we were doing the Footloose Center.
Oh, and while
Three on it there.
this might be a good opportunity. You know, as we get into these alternatives, I want to open the floor to anybody that wants to present it also. So if you got thoughts around in your mind, if you need help here, I'm happy to help. If you just want to present ideas, please. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You brought up the sundial and retractable seating.
Yeah.
Now that the retractable seating is brought up and it could possibly affect the men's club, are they eligible for a seat at the table?
How is that? Oh, you mean because of bingo?
Yes.
Right. Well, I don't know that we've gone that far, Steve, but yes, before anything would be recommended, we would have to consider all affected clubs.
Okay.
That's the way this works.
Makes sense.
Thank you. You can't pick and choose, it's gotta be everybody.
So if you're ready,
Yep.
so not only is my wife an engineer, so am I. That's how we met, actually, at the airport, in the United States Air Force. And over 40-some years ago. So, this is to look at options, how it can be done. So, I believe the pack should be staying at Mountain View. And instead of having the mother of all packs, which is 35,000 square feet, and it so happens that many of you, probably most of you don't know this, but I actually run the precincts for every election, both primary as well as November, and early voting for all of the West Side precincts. Actually, I'm not talking about party, I just run it for the Maricopa County Elections Department, and one of my precincts happens to be in the Stardust Theater. So I spent a lot of time over the many years of elections in the Stardust Theater, setting it up and doing all that, and I'm very impressed with it. I like the Stardust Theater, and they have a 320 seat, I believe.
296, so it's less than 10,000 square feet. Chad.
Okay, so I was trying to do it by what it is in square feet, but that theater is very impressive and easy to maintain from the way I look at it. I'm not talking to anybody there. But the key is to eliminate the fly capability to save money. That is where the 35,000 and the roof going up comes up. Make the building shorter, save them cost and maintenance and HVAC, heating and air conditioning, and insurance rates. So that brings it down to within our budget, our being Sun City. Rotate back to the original location, which keeps existing pickleball, tennis, lawn bowling, and some current back parking and solar in place, because we spend a lot of money putting in the solar all over the city. Remove the existing pool and fitness center, replace it with new pools and fitness center attached to each other and to the new pickleball center instead of a large basketball gym multi-purpose space which has 3% usage for the report. There are other less expensive ways to add basketball if basketball is considered. I'm not saying we should not have basketball, but let's look at the, like you said, the usage and how much basketball is used. I happen to be I go almost daily, so I'm kind of biased to bowling. But that doesn't mean I want other things not to happen. Attach resort pool to the lap pool so we can share the water and equipment and maintenance expenses. You can attach pools and then separate the pools with the decorative wall for noise separation and visual separation. And downsizing the pack and the oversized atrium will leave room for more new parking near the entrance. Just an idea, these are just thoughts.
Sue and I did this.
Yes, I know where I got it.
This is where we're coming from, Sue
Yes.
and I. Yes, we want to eliminate the fly. It makes the building look a little more like it fits within the area. I know you'd love the fly, I get it, but back projection, I think, could work. And with technology, I think it's getting better. The atrium, whatever they call that thing, that is way oversized for what we need. And again, there's a lot of empty air up there that we're cooling. I like the sharing of the pools, we talked about that. And in regards to basketball, I don't have anything against basketball, but maybe if we can satisfy pickleball, tennis, theater, and everybody else in the world, maybe basketball has to wait till 8 feet. I would rather make 8 groups happy and one can hate me for a few years, and we'll get you later. We know you're out there, we know there aren't great numbers, but we're not gonna forget you.
I see no mention of mini golf here, proposing to remove it.
I didn't put mini golf in there because I was thinking about it.
There you go.
Because I
Actually
don't
figured
play
out.
mini golf. I've never played golf. But no, we should involve mini golf. We need to keep as much of it existing as possible.
It's not getting much.
Because I live by one,
Yeah.
so
Because all it needs is new carpet and it's ready to go
it's,
again.
and it's highly used.
Yes,
Well,
it's not.
the opposite of this is they're talking about making it handicap accessible, which is going to take a tremendous amount of space over what's there now. And that was going to be the,
That's only if you build a new mini golf.
yeah.
If you just refurbish the existing one, there's no ADA requirements.
Right, exactly, right, and that's what the architect,
And the numbers.
that's how we got,
The numbers.
Yeah,
you know, it's all
yeah,
the
there were like so much more room for
It's a
that.
cheap fix compared
And
to
let's
everything
not
else.
throw 88 mini golf.
No, no.
That just adds more cost.
I did hear one gentleman, and he's not here. I think it was maybe the
Pickleball's not here.
I think
This is the
Dan.
pickleball guy.
So that Mountain View pool doesn't have to be replaced, it's just some plumbing that has to be replaced?
The deck needs to be replaced.
The deck and the,
It needs
Yeah, and the deck.
to be,
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
completely replaced, not just resurfaced.
Yeah. But it was also some kind of plumbing outside of the pool.
The outdoor spa.
Underneath the deck, the aerators, cool, they leak really bad.
They're under the deck.
Under the deck.
Okay, he seemed to think they were not under the deck, they were outside of the pool area.
They're outside of, they're not.
Well, outside of the,
pool, but they're under
yeah.
the deck of the pool.
okay. Just repeating what Aaron was saying.
Yeah.
That was June. It's not here.
So now when somebody throws out an idea like this, how do you want to proceed? Want to go around the room and say what you think?
Oh, I didn't call, I checked the Wikipedia, if you can believe that. Just a little while ago. And the Peoria Performing Arts Center is 175 seats.
Okay.
It doesn't give me square footage. It was $13 million in 2005.
Wow.
And they have 2 classrooms, 3 dressing rooms, a green room, a costume shop, and a construction shop, as well as some offices.
Okay.
And they also have that fly as well.
That's the price range.
Yeah. And it's very nice.
It is, yep.
It's very classy.
I don't disagree. And just to let you know, the only reason I ever brought up the Peoria Center was for transition, because we knew that the Mountain View was going to go away, and they were struggling with how to do plays while mountains are starting.
Of course, I love this because you dreamt it. I just
So
think
that's how you really feel.
it's reasonable seat size. I don't know how many seats you can get, 20,000 square feet. We'd have to have that figured out. I don't know.
They have 227 and 300 square feet.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, so the plan is that next week I will be presenting sort of the other side to this, is that, okay, if we don't do the retractable seating in order to create theater space and we build it back, what would be some options? And I'll be looking at what we have, what the Stardust Theater is, some more data about that, the Pebble Creek and the Green Valley Theater outside of Tucson. So that's scheduled for next week.
Just to let you know, in the current footprint, the 20,000 feet, there's probably, just by squaring off that building, you get it to about 13,000 square feet.
Okay.
So, because, you know, I don't know if you know that building, but it was built when the Apollo space program was going on. It's a space capsule. Why anybody, you know, only in the minds of architects do they do that. But just by squaring it off, you get about 13,000 feet. No, not additional, total, I'm sorry, total square foot.
Not additional.
No, not. Gotcha.
The one thing this committee needs to focus on is money. Not just the money cost to build it, but to maintain it. And that's, I wanted to make sure that the committee keeps that in mind all the time, because we would like to have all kinds of things, we all live here, we pay for all this stuff, but we want to also leave behind something long-term, which will be maintainable with not having to go up in fees 10 years from now. I mean, that's the key.
And I think this satisfies a lot of different groups. It doesn't satisfy everybody, somebody's not gonna be happy, but everybody has to give a little.
So do we have to remove the existing pool completely? Okay, so there are viable options of maintaining, okay.
Yes.
I think Anita had a great couple of points last week where she was like, if you go with the fly that's 45 feet high, how do you change the light bulb? How do you do that? You have the special equipment, the special
Maintain
training,
the
the additional insurance, the.
You've got all the mechanics to do
Using
that.
the scissor lift,
So, you know, so now you're talking additional cost, either renting or buying, and
We've got a scissor lift that we use in the current facility because that's what they use to change the bolts now.
But it's not 4.5 stories.
Right.
The new building as proposed is 45 feet. That's 4.5 stories.
There's just a lot of logistics and cost involved that you don't necessarily readily think about in its maintenance and its longevity.
And if we think of LED versus incandescent, that makes a heck of a lot
That helps.
cheaper, both maintenance and actual.
Yes, that does help.
So I'm not in construction, but what is the time frame typically, once an option is decided on, to build this performing arts center / redo Mountain View? What are we looking at?
Two things. I haven't been an engineer. I actually built several naval submarine bases.
You know a guy, yeah, okay.
So I actually built Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base, the most highly classified base in the world. Two things in today's world. One is availability of people to build it. That's in today's world.
Okay.
Second is availability of materials to build it. Those are the two biggest things, cost-wise, human beings and
So
cement, sand, those kinds of things.
in an ideal society, we have all the resources, we have enough manpower, what would it take?
Between 9 months to a year.
Okay.
18 months to 24 months.
I'm just sitting here thinking about the Sun City players and where will they be displaced to? Is that Sundial?
I don't know, that's a transition plan.
That's just it.
Okay, yeah, I was just kind of curious as to how long the players would be displaced.
Yes.
But that's something the players would have to say, how are they going to deal with, that one I say is akin to changing the wheels of your car while it's moving.
How do you do that?
Figure it out, let us know.
we have an architect and we have a contractor. Are we locked into those two? We could walk away from them and find someone different. Because this is going to, if we come up with a different plan, it has to be redrawn. It has to be redrawn. We have to have new prints. We have to have all this new stuff.
Yep.
Is our existing architect and contractor want to get involved with us throwing away what they had and starting over?
Something you have to say.
And if that happens, what's the time
They're not
frame?
gonna care because they've already been paid for the work they've done.
That's true. But they're not going to get paid for more work.
I wish Mike was here, but since he's not, what I would say is CCBG and Alston are now extremely familiar with that site. So they would have some tiny advantage, but it's not a large advantage. But they do have a substantial amount of time looking at that site. And so they would have a definite advantage of being able to start not from zero, but maybe starting from 30 or 40 to get to the end of the process.
And we have about $400,000 paid out now.
Correct.
Okay. What would be the time frame to draw new plans, new architect, or a architect?
It depends on if you're talking about just conceptual drawings or the actual schematics. Conceptual drawings, a month, depending on the inputs that you give. The actual schematics significantly longer than that.
No, the ones we have in back there are conceptual, right?
I haven't really looked back there, so.
The pre-construction.
Well, they've got to be pre-construction because a builder couldn't take that and build one of those roads.
All the details have to be added.
My father was a carpenter, he knew just enough to be trouble. I know what a joist is.
Norm?
I worked with CCB&G when we did Fairway. It took about 3 years from demolition to finish. I found them to be, and I think Scott's still there, I'm not sure, very adaptable, very understanding of where you want to go, and putting your ideas into a much better vision than you actually had. They were very, very easy to work with, and I don't think that would be any sort of a handicap changing gears.
So we would probably be at least a year and a half out to get detailed plans and construction cost determined.
I think you could do it a lot quicker than that.
A year and a half is for construction.
You're talking months.
Yeah, months.
Okay.
The planning, construction, design, and code, the code,
Yeah.
all, and the approval of code, all that months. So,
Well, months 3, months 9.
no, I would say 6. 6, I would say 6.
And then we have to go back to the county again?
Yes.
Yes.
It takes
And
a long time.
that's slow.
The county has a lot of buildings going on, and a lot of architects are very busy now, so
Yeah.
there's a.
I have a grandson who's an architect.
I know we talked about it.
Even
He
better,
works for the city in Florida.
even better, the guy who lives behind me in Sun City is an architect.
Yeah.
Retired, of course.
So I think you're trying to get an end-to-end time.
We're trying to get a time span here. Where are we?
It sounds like we're about 3 years.
Kevin, if we just said forget it, we're going to go with what we've got, when would they start working?
I honestly couldn't answer that because I don't know what their staffing situation is.
Okay.
You know, I assume that they've disbanded whatever team they had put together to work on the original vision for this. Now, I don't think that there would be a huge problem, but I can't say for sure that, you know, right away they can assemble the team, the civil engineers, the mechanical, the whatever, get that team all pulled back together to get started again. They were not complete with the detailed drawings and planning. They had gotten fairly far along in the process, but there's still a lot of work to do. If we said, you know, let's go on option 2, go. It's not like they can start tomorrow, right?
It's near Jordan Company, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we probably wouldn't be number 1 on the list, but we'd be out there. So I'm sure they've got other projects going on.
They do.
They're not just waiting for us.
they'll help.
Good. I guess the other thing that you want to try to have a good handle on as you discuss these things is the cost, as much as you can. And, going through that option two gave some good indications of what costs were. We talked to another architect who believes those are very understated. And so you want to have, I don't know, you have a cost estimator on the team that tells you per square foot what Marshall and Swift would, or what the current building costs are and all of that stuff. Because I think the last thing you want to do as a committee is come up with a dynamite recommendation that we can't fund.
Yeah.
Earlier, you all decided that 2 was not good.
Right.
So under what you're describing now, are we essentially going back to 1?
Some, I would say 1.5.
1.5?
Yeah. Between 1 and 2.
Karen, you were at Stardust on a tour, and I know they have their theater. Do they also have a black box theater there?
Well, they have a room that could double as a black box theater. They have a fully enclosed rehearsal room that's behind the stage, that's more than half the size of the stage. It's about 65%, I think, as I recall. So one of the things that's really curious about the Stardust Theater is that their auditorium, the seating, is less than a third of the total
That's what you
size.
had said.
So over, like, some 70% of it is what they call the stage plus back 40. So they get there just under 300 seats in there, and it's less than a total of 10,000 square feet.
But they
And
do have dedicated rehearsal space outside of their stage.
No?
No?
Well, yes,
Yes.
this rehearsal room behind it,
Okay.
and that's something
So
beyond
that would
So
also.
their storage is off-site, but they actually have in that back 40 is a large wood shop where they make all their sets and so forth. And it's a loading dock that pulls up right to the back there. They have 2 costume rooms, they have multiple dressing room areas. They have, it's a lot, it's two-thirds, more than 2/3 of the total size is devoted to stage and back 40.
Because that would allow for some rehearsals to go on while one club might be using the stage, the other club could at least be rehearsing in a black box or rehearsal space.
Exactly.
You know.
And I've been to the Sun City West Theater, and it's a nice theater. Both sitting in for performances and backstage.
So you are comfortable with that kind of concept? I'm not saying the exact duplicate of the concept, but
That's
something like that.
something similar to that. The biggest problem I see is the size of the audience there. It's a little small for what we do ordinarily.
Would it be
Let's talk one person at a time, please.
So if we figured something on the order of 350 or 400 seats in that kind of concept, that would work for us, as I see it.
Tad, what if you had to throw in an extra couple performances?
That's the way it
We have had some Thursday matinees that died with COVID. And those were not as well attended as the evening performances in the Sunday matinee. But I don't know whether the actors would be that much in favor of additional performances.
You probably have to increase your membership.
And like I was saying, Anita, that's, if we had a very small seating capacity, we normally have between like 600 to 700 that attend our show. If we're asking our seniors, and we all are, I mean, to come out there and dance 4 days for 4 shows or twice in one day, that is a lot.
Yes.
So, I mean, I can see 350 because, 2 shows I think we can do, but anything beyond 2 shows from our club would be a lot to ask of them.
Do you ever see
And we've been doing 6 and 7 with the Thursday matinee.
Do you ever see yourself as a year-round performing group?
been in probably 17 shows myself.
I'm afraid we're gonna have from May to September with this building not being used. And that's a huge investment to have it sit there. What could we do in the summer in that building? Retractable seats?
Well, I would say high school commencements.
Well, yeah, we could rent it out for other things, but what could we do locally?
Retractable seats in there.
Movies, lectures?
I know our population drops like a rock.
I don't think so anymore. Have you noticed the traffic on 99th Avenue
Yeah.
now? I always say, where are the snowbirds? Or what are these people?
That's 99, yeah, that's.
Dude,
What's it come through?
that was one of the problems that we had with the so-called capacity study.
Yeah.
The facts of life are that we lose 45 to 50% of our people are snowbirds. So I don't care what you do, you're going to have a half-empty city for a good portion of the year. A lot of people don't come here until after the holidays for family reasons. A lot of people leave here prior to income tax so they can get home and do their income tax. That's the population we have, besides being 74 years old and wanting to do everything in the morning because that's the only time we have energy.
Not me.
We're herd animals, and that's just what we are. And so we have to adapt. And the fact that most of our facilities are empty from March and April through September is just,
Yes.
that's us.
Yes.
It's just.
And we're never going to change that.
But that is likely to change. It's likely to change because the people that are coming down, you hear it all the time, put your meetings at a different time. We're still working for a living. So what's going to happen is the people who need to keep working for a living go.
Yeah,
They can't leave in the summertime. They still have to work.
But that opens up a whole new can of worms because right now, all of our clubs close at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because that's happy hour. But most of the new people coming in are going to have to work full-time or part-time, which means we're going to have the clubs open till 9 o'clock at night.
And
Now that's going to cause all kinds of problems.
And one more thing, people are living longer and working longer.
That's what we're talking about.
Kat,
Yeah.
where does the board come from on renting facility? Would the board be supportive of renting facility, that performing arts center? Or is that something we prefer not to do?
I think it's something we have to see what the permissions are. We have to see if we have a history of doing that. We have to begin to know what to charge for something like that.
Because
I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm just saying we have to answer.
But you're flexible enough to look at
In the past, the rule of thumb has been that outside groups would not limit activities of inside groups.
Right, but I'm thinking in the summer where we don't
You
have.
could shoot a cannon down here.
Yeah. Maybe that would be the time where a high school would want to use it, or a church, or who knows what.
Or political parties every 2
Right.
years.
Yeah,
Does the committee want to?
you have to have great insurance for that.
Have comments from the audience? Or do you want to continue your discussion?
I think that this ought to be considered as an alternative,
Yes.
just as Sundial is. So then we get all the alternatives together and make a decision someplace way down the line.
Way down, okay.
Not
we
that
have-
way down. We got 2 months.
Do we have
At
other
my age,
alternatives?
that's way down the line.
Yes.
Yeah, in the summertime, if you think beyond performing arts to lectures, lifelong learning, all of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
that
Very
should
good point.
be easier and cheaper to bring in, and there would be interest in people doing something
Or like a
that.
speaker series.
The speaker
You
series.
know, I don't know, I mean, but if you could get 4 or 5 speakers and space them out a little bit, that would also then.
You know, the library.
I just worry about farming out too much of our property. I try to get a bowling lane sometimes, and it's all outside people in outside leagues. And the
Okay.
same thing, people complain about golf. I mean, I think if our residents pay their annual fees, they should be the priority. I'm not a you know, I don't mind sharing facilities if they rent it, but it has to be at a price that is going to make us a profit, and we must always have our residents and their needs above the needs of outside people. And I've seen in the paper where golfers can't even get on the days they want because other people who don't live in Sun City are using that. And I can tell you, I had that happen many times with me with bowling. I couldn't even get on a lane because it was all these people from outside saying how reasonable the food was over there at Lakeview bowling alleys. And the other thing I'd like to say is, have you sat in those foldable chairs for 2 hours? Because many of our people, this is comfortable for like an hour, but we have many people with many physical illnesses and back problems and all kinds of problems, and they come to our shows, and they say, I can't come to your shows anymore because I can't tolerate sitting in your seats.
Yes.
So I would like to say that, and that was just a couple of things I was thinking about with regard. The other thing is, when we broke down our set for our last show, Old Hams, which we had about 1,200 people come and see, we were very pleased with that. That was our show in March. RCSC people said, no, that's a club. We don't handle helping you break down your sets. We had to hire a moving company to help move our set back to our shop.
Right.
So I think for anyone to assume that RCSC is going to be able to step up, A, they may not have the manpower, and B, they told us that's not their job.
Right.
So there's a lot of other variables that need to be thought about.
Exactly. It has to be a whole package. It can't. Did you have a? Yeah.
Yes, I did. I was curious because I was hearing about all the effort that went into building the set, with the different backdrops and maybe it's rolling around stages. And I was really surprised to hear that there might be only 1 or 2 performances. I thought there would be. It sounds like an awful lot of effort going in.
Yes, we usually have 6 or 7 performances.
Okay.
6 is the current number. We have had, and that's Friday, Saturday evening, Sunday matinee, 2 weekends.
Okay.
And we have had a Thursday matinee between the 2.
Okay, good.
Okay. Is there another? Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes.
My name is Bruce Halverson. I'm the president of the Men's Club, Sundale Men's Club.
Yes.
And we're obviously very concerned because we house on Thursdays at least 600 people. We have a lot of equipment in that room. We have storage rooms there. We're concerned that the seating proposal is going to cost us seats. We do donate all our proceeds, $80,000 a year, every year. It goes to local charities, it goes to the rec center. The rec center gets half of it, or the other clubs get the rest. We're concerned. I'm listening to this. I do want to become part of this committee because I hear what's going on here, and I guess we're very concerned.
Okay.
We have some input because no one has talked to us at all.
Right. This is the first time we've ever discussed this alternative, so I think it's appropriate for you to be on.
So are you Karen? I'll be talking to you.
I hear you. I'm just trying to
Thank
make
you.
sure that our external people are able to see the city.
John, do you know if there's any other alternatives that people have whispered about, or
What's that now?
are there any other alternative ideas that people have?
Yeah, there's a whole host of them.
Okay.
And again, if anybody, not necessarily you, somebody you know, has an alternative, even if they can type it up in 15 minutes with my good friend Dr. Jack, is a good onboard to discussion and ideas, because we're looking at these as brainstorming. Okay, and once we get this brainstorming going, you're going to start, I think, feeding off each other. You're going to discover the hurdles, all right, that hey, this is a hurdle, it may be insurmountable, so-and-so go explore what that hurdle is and report back. And in that process, I hope that what we're able to do is whittle it down to something that, the perfect compromise, we know what's happening. So, everybody gets something but know what's happening. Yes, ma'am.
Sun City Grant has used retractable seating for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
They do roll it in and out, they don't store it on the floor.
Yeah.
And then the other comment I have is Sun City West, for short people, the pitch is not high enough. It's just
Okay.
the floor is too flat. Granted, you don't have steps, you just have a inclined walkway, so it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
But I'd rather take steps and see.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe we should go see Sun City Grand the same way.
They'd have to be having a production to have them out.
Yeah.
Otherwise you wouldn't see it.
I understand their, what do you call those, tiers or?
Yeah, it's retractable. I mean, every seat has arms. They're actually wider than seats at other theaters.
Okay.
And it is like a two-step for each row. And they have a handicap at the front. They do set up some flat
And there's a lot of different options for y'all to, consider. And to, I think, Tammy, what you said is key. No one's going to get everything that they want. And you're going to have a ceiling. That ceiling is called money. And I bumped my head enough against that ceiling to know that, not to get my expectations up too high, even though I would love that Lamborghini.
You can't afford the insurance.
Yeah.
I have another finance question. Does the RCSC have a rule against sponsorship from companies?
Can I jump in for 1 second? Because we asked for a legal opinion on that a couple of years ago. So we have to go back and look at what the legal opinion said.
I wish we didn't have.
Our university that I worked at got a sponsorship through Coca-Cola, and they had to have their name on the wall. This is on a 4-story building. It's a classroom building, it's huge. And there's a big mural on it that was put on that building, and Coca-Cola's name is on that building. It's about this long and this high, and it's in the bottom corner. Matter of fact, by now there's probably, and they approved it, they were happy with it. But by now it's probably covered with shrubbery, I don't know. And
I think we have some tax issues with accepting that.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work, sponsorship.
We're a 501c4, we may have some tax issues. Otherwise, I would have opened the Chevrolet Theater.
I'm new, just taking over for Scott while he's gone, but has any of us looked at other 55 and better communities for that downtime? What they might do for that empty space within here or in the country? You have, okay.
I'll have some data.
Okay.
I know that in Sun City West, they say that there's very little usage from May through August, but that's when they do all of their regular and preventive maintenance.
Got it.
So.
You talked about sponsors, Anita, before, but we've actually explored and talked about grant money and things before, so we've approached that.
We do apply for it, and we do accept grants.
So that's another possibility, some other avenue.
What about the Del Webb Foundation? Has anybody reached out to them in Prescott?
I don't know.
I would think we would need to know what we would want to.
Usually, have like, but they may.
Yep. But, and maybe that's a takeaway, is that we'll talk to the lawyer and see how far we can push out on hold. In the past, I think we've gotten some pretty hardline negative things as far as putting Coca-Cola on there.
There are a lot of fine arts, performing arts grants to the federal government.
Yes.
Right.
There's a bazillion dollars.
That's the way we have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with the Rubik's Cube, something where only one color is out of place on each side.
Does anybody know a grant writer?
I never took those classes. They were always offered, and I never took them.
I know, I worked on one, but I don't think I can do it.
Yeah. Okay, in terms of how you want to proceed, the next meeting, Karen's going to share some information about the 3 existing performing arts centers in retirement communities, what they do, activities they have in there, how big they are. Everyone knows Sun City West. But then we're really into the thick of it as far as alternatives are concerned. And we're looking for anybody that has an idea, no matter how rough it is, to help, that we can help out. We will present ideas as well as strong men, and kind of jumping off points for discussion. And I think that process then will help us to kind of put pen to paper.
Is there any way possible, I noticed Karen has her laptop or tablet going over there. I'm going to be gone for like 4 weeks. I don't need to participate, but I would love to at least, instead of having to watch the video afterwards,
Yeah.
is there like a Zoom capability that we could?
So what we're using today for the very first time is Steve Oakes is on with us. I just asked him whether he'd like to say or ask him to, because he would have the potential to do that. But we've set up with Microsoft Teams, and so we will, for each of the subsequent meetings coming up, have a Microsoft Teams link. So the deal is that during COVID, Zoom made a fortune, obviously, but from what we've sort of been told, Zoom kind of has rested on its laurels, and Microsoft Teams has figured out how do we actually make this an even better virtual program, which is why we're using Microsoft Teams now instead of Zoom. And it doesn't require anything from you apart from let us know, we will send you the link, and you can pull the link up on your browser. We had a little bit of difficulty with that today, but somehow I think when Steve got, I don't know, because we got the pass code or something, he was actually able to do it. We were hoping that he could do it more easily than that. So he's on with us right now. Steve, would you like to say hi to everybody?
I would just love to at least be able to participate in this while I'm in New York for a month.
Yeah. I relinquished, I didn't want to get a webcam for this TV and have RCSC set it up, because I can't even seem to put a cable over it.
So if you don't mind, I would like to, I know that Jim is waiting to say something, but we had actually talked about how we wanted to handle the next phase of brainstorming. So we feel like up until now, we're very interested in everything that all of us thinks and has to say about this, but a lot of it has been laying the foundation. These are things that we know, and let's make sure that we all know the same things and that we don't just know things that aren't so, right? And so the idea was that I don't think that my presentation will take necessarily more than a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. I haven't put it together yet, I don't know. But that starting next week, we wanted to invite you to come with ideas. So you kind of jumped the gun on this. You're ahead of the shark here in making your presentation. So we want to just throw that open to everybody. And this is pretty much what we were thinking we would like to see, is something that doesn't have to be a comprehensive thing that solves all the problems. Not the last development at both Lakeview and Mountain View, but something sketched out in broad strokes like this. And give us your ideas. And so the idea with brainstorming, of course, is brainstorming is supposed to be a non-critical process. So when somebody comes, so if next week I just want to invite anybody that has an idea to feel free to come, have something similar to this. If you want to do a PowerPoint presentation, you can. If you would like to do a PowerPoint presentation and don't know how to do it, we're glad to help you with that. But to get some ideas that we would put up, and what we as a group would do, as a committee would do there, and this is really important at this stage, is to ask questions that are clarifying. for all of Sun City. I think, I want to do four rec centers and change them all around, whatever you have, but we do want you to feel like you should be thinking in those terms, and that's very, very critical to the next phase of this, is coming up with alternatives. So please do feel free, and if you do have something that you would like to present, you can just come, but it would help us in terms of planning for the meeting if you would let John or me or Jeff know in advance, so that we have a little bit of an idea. If nobody has anything, then the plan for the next meeting will look different, and if we have 5 people that are coming that would all like to make a presentation. Okay, does that sound okay?
And I will add meeting open.
It's a little early now,
Refurbished.
but one of the things that we need to keep in mind is, and it's been said a couple times, is the cost. So if we come up with several concepts, we need to go to an architect and just say, what would it cost to do this? What would it cost to do that one? What would it cost to do this one? And we did that briefly with an architect recently. If it's $1,000 a square foot, then we're going to be limited to how many square feet we can do, maybe more so than we were expecting. So we just need to deal in the real world of what things cost, and what it costs to maintain it. One of the things we didn't talk about from Sun City West is they have light specialists. They've got, there's a lot of things that come with running a theater that we don't have right now.
Well, we do have volunteers who handle
Yes.
lights and sound and so forth, but
But somebody's got to maintain that equipment, which is not cheap.
yes, and we've had to replace equipment recently because the government has assigned wavelengths to different areas that we were using for microphones, wireless microphones. So it's been interesting.
Gene?
I was just going to remind everyone here, but also you have an audience that will be watching on YouTube, that if you are going to do presentations, it's helpful to have copies made, perhaps on a thumb drive, just so that we can plan ahead and be prepared for both those people in-house, and then I can put anything necessary up on the website.
Karen, you mentioned that a pickleball building facility. You mentioned a steel structure. Is that a reasonable alternative versus a typical construction of a building?
Okay, so I'm probably not the most authoritative person in the world to answer that question, but I have asked a lot of people, and a lot of people have said to me, absolutely. Generally speaking, it's much less expensive and has less maintenance. The thing that a lot of people don't know about steel construction is that you can make it look like anything you want to. So Hershey Foundation in central Pennsylvania has a fine arts center that looks like a medieval castle. I'm not kidding you. You look at it and you think you were in the middle of a medieval town in Germany. And it's a steel construction building. So you can make it look like everything else. It's not like it necessarily has to look like a warehouse. A lot of people think that that's the case for steel construction.
I can speak to a little something along that line because I am also a member of the Experimental Aircraft Association local chapter, and we are putting up a hangar down at Glendale Airport that is 80 by 90 feet. And in this week alone, we have gotten the structure for 3 sides done. We still have to put all the siding on it and the insulation and so forth, but as well as the roof.
I think the company that I spoke with told me that they average 1,000 square feet per day in construction, which is way faster than brick and mortar kind of construction.
How much is that costing you to put that up?
Well, we're using a good bit of sweat equity on it, but it probably was running for that size building something on the order of $500,000.
26th.
through July 10th.
There's 2 weeks we can't be here.
So it doesn't affect us next Friday, but it affects the following Friday.
Following 2 Fridays.
Yeah.
One question, and I don't know if it's possible, but we have an outside door that doesn't rely on the center? Or is there going to be people?
The concern is we're doing roofing, and if you've ever seen a roof replaced, we'll have debris that's in walk spaces. And
Gotcha.
that's a concern, it's a safety issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we were wondering whether, at least for one of those weeks, we might be able to use the social room at Fairway, for instance. If we don't need any of our equipment, we're just doing a brainstorming session, would that be an option for us?
Yeah, we just have to look at the schedule.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks. For 2 weeks only.
So next week is here, and it's a combination of finding out what local tax and 55+ communities are doing. I'll try to find out as much as I can for you. And then to whatever other time would be used for people making presentations about some particular aspect or multiple aspects of alternatives.
Okay, is there anything more? Hey, we're 24 minutes early with a 5-minute late start.
This is a copywritten production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.